Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back to the southern wing of the Stink Bug Works. I have not done anything on the boat yesterday, although I did do this little sketch thinking about a PVC rack for it that could eventually develop to being inside of a bag like I did with the pan pack. So I will make a PVC stand, except I won't glue a couple of pieces in so that I can pull those out and adapt it to something else. But today, I want to answer a question, and I think it's best if we start with a clean slate. I've been taking time away from boat building to do perk tests and to build some spares for the perk test trailer. I have all my gear in a trailer that I drag around to these job sites. Anyway, somebody asked me what a perk test was, and he searched Google and couldn't find it, and it's because he spelled it wrong. But English may not be his first language, so I'm not going to say anything about spelling it wrong because he didn't understand what I was saying. Anyway, a perk test is short for a percolation test. What does a percolation test do? It measures the hydraulic conductivity of the soil. Now, soil has lots of properties that engineers study so they know, what kind of building they can build and what kind of road they can build. So they need to know the properties of the soil. And soil has compressive strength. It has shear strength. It has a sand equivalence. There's just a whole bunch of properties of the soil. And hydraulic conductivity is one of them. Now let's look at the words. Hydraulic mean water, and conductivity, it's like, wires conducting electricity. So how fast does water move through the dirt? You've all seen it. It rains, and all this water comes from the sky, and it just disappears. Well, where did it go? Well, it went into the ground for the most part. Sometimes it runs off and goes down in a creek, into a river, into a lake, into an ocean, but that's another story. So here's what a perk test is. I was going to give you a big, detailed story. I'll give you a little background on it. Here in Southern California, we are not free. We can't use the light bulbs we want. We can't use the toilets we want. We can't drive the car we want. We can't buy the gas we want. Every time you turn around, there's a restriction on something. Because everybody wants to be here, but nobody will allow anybody to do anything. So there's a lot of political pressure on development. Developers want to develop, and conservationists want to conserve. So somewhere in there has to be a line. Well, you can develop this much, but you can't develop that much. One of the tools that the government uses to regulate the amount of growth is septic permits. If you can't flush the toilet, you can't build the house. Oh, you have a nice piece of property, but I'm sorry, you can't build on it. That's how the government works. So my job in doing these perk tests, measuring how fast water goes through the soil, is that I can design on-site wastewater treatment systems, septic systems. Although there's new whiz-bang versions of them. But essentially, that's what I do. And the government says, you cannot build on this lot. And it's up to me to convince the government they're wrong. And that is not an easy task. So here's the way it works. Here's the way it works. First, a drilling contractor comes in and drills a hole. And if I have a little short clip of it, I might even include just a short clip right here. He's got a Jeep-mounted auger, and he tows this Jeep behind his truck, and he drills holes. And he can drill down to, I've seen him drill down to 40 feet, but we generally in this county can't go any deeper than 20 because you need a well permit for if you go more than 20 feet. So in these perk tests, we'll drill one deeper hole to look for, underground rocks or water or something that could be a problem. And then the rest of the holes we dig, this is a cross section through the hole. The rest of the holes we dig will be the depth of the system, generally 3 feet, although sometimes I've done them at 12 inches, sometimes I've done them at 12 feet. But predominantly they're 3 to 5 feet. And what you do, in short, is you add water to this hole. Now, first you need to pre-soak it because one of the properties of dirt is it can be expansive. Clay expands when it gets wet and shrinks when it gets dry. That's why you see all the cracked plates in the bottom of a creek. That's the clay drying out and shrinking up, and so it cracks. So you have to add water in here and allow the dirt out here to get wet and expand. So one day you add the water, the following day you come out and you fill it up to 6 inches and you measure how fast that water drops, and your answer is in minutes per inch. It takes 12 minutes for this to drop 1 inch. It takes 60 minutes for this to drop 1 inch. It takes 5 minutes for this to drop 1 inch. So the rates will be all over the place, but everything is, your answer is in minutes per inch. And then the government gives you charts, and you have this big chart in front of you, and you look at the number of bedrooms. They size septic system here based on bedrooms and not fixtures. Some jurisdictions count fixtures, toilets and sinks and the like. This agency, San Diego County, counts bedrooms, and their logic for that is you'll have 2 people per bedroom maximum, and each person will use this much water. Therefore, the bedroom count controls how much water goes into and goes out of the house. And my job is to deal with all that water that goes out of that house. Because and people don't think about this. They don't think about their septic systems. And that's the real cause of failure. They need to be maintained. It's like a car. But since septic systems involve foul-smelling things, people like to have it out of sight and out of mind. But it's there working, and you need to consider maintaining it. So that's what a perk test is. And today I'm going to cut a series of carbon fiber rods in half. And then I'm going over to Escondido, where I keep the trailer. The trailer's full of equipment. I got all kinds of special tools and things. And we're going to add some spares. So on the job site breakdowns, we haven't had any, fortunately. But on the site, breakdowns will be less catastrophic. Last thinking about boats. Remember, boys and girls, this is a 2S boat. This sucker is going to run on 2S. So we'll see what a 2S boat can do. I'm still waiting for parts, so that's the major reason I'm not doing that. Although I am stockpiling foam for my jam foam project here, because we'll make structural jam foam in here. So there you go. A little talk about something other than boats. Until next time, boys and girls, jet out.